Imagine a city just completely changing its global role almost overnight, becoming this vital hub for humanitarian aid. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of incredible transformation. It's happening in Kenya, specifically Nairobi, and its main airport, JKIA. It's quickly becoming a major humanitarian and logistics center, really, for the whole of Africa and even beyond. Our goal today is to unpack all of this. I mean, the new airport stuff, UN agencies actually moving their global HQs there, these cutting-edge logistics centers. We want to explore what it really means for aid efficiency, global impact, and Kenya's development.
Absolutely. And for you listening, think of this as your shortcut to understanding a really critical global shift. You'll get a pretty comprehensive picture of how vital aid moves, the strategy behind these big international operations, and how one country is really positioning itself right at the forefront. It's about understanding that complex dance, the logistics, that gets help where it's desperately needed.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. Why Kenya? Why Nairobi specifically? What's making it such a magnet for these big international organizations right now?
Well, a big piece of the puzzle is the UN's UN at 80 reform program that kicked off in March 2025. And a huge part of it is about cutting costs, frankly, but also about being closer, physically closer to the people they serve. So you've got major agencies, UNICEF, UNFPA, UN Women actually relocating global operations from New York to Nairobi. And you have to remember, Nairobi already has a huge UN presence. It's not starting from scratch. We're talking 86 UN offices already, 73 of them packed into the JKIA complex. That's supporting over 6,500 staff, plus another 11,000 dependents. So it's a city within a city, almost.
Right, that's a massive existing footprint. So given that base, what kind of new investment are we talking about? How is the UN scaling this up even further?
Yeah, the investment is serious. It's roughly 340 million US dollars, about 44 billion Kenya shillings, just for expanding that JKIA campus. And this isn't just like more office buildings. We're talking major upgrades, a new assembly hall seating 9,000 people, 30 new conference rooms. But the really smart part, I think, is the consolidation. They're bringing lots of back office functions, HR, finance, procurement, that sort of thing, under one roof. It's called the Kenya Common Back Office, or KCBO. Think about the efficiency gains there. Instead of every agency doing its own thing, it's centralized, cuts redundancy. The whole idea is to make Nairobi a proper global UN nexus, a nerve center, making decisions faster, closer to the action without the old bureaucratic delays. It's a structural change, really, and the immediate impact. We expect at least 800 more global-level staff by late 2026, plus all the spillover jobs, logistics, security, hospitality services. It ripples outwards.
Okay, it's definitely more than just desks and meeting rooms then. It's fundamentally changing how aid moves. So let's pivot to the physical heart of it all, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA. How is JKIA actually becoming this super hub, the continent's first UN humanitarian logistics hub?
Right. JKIA's transformation is, well, it's huge, multi-phase, very ambitious. The absolute centerpiece is the new Greenfield Terminal. Picture this. It's a radial design, 4 levels, like spokes on a wheel, basically. Super efficient for moving people. It's designed for an extra 20 million passengers a year. Huge footprint, 178,000 square meters. 60 check-in counters, 32 contact gates, 8 remote gates, all built for high throughput and, importantly, future expansion. But it's not just the terminal building. There's major airside work, too. A second runway parallel to the existing one, with good spacing, 1,580 meters. New taxiways. They're even planning space for a third runway down the line, maybe by 2055. And connecting it all, a big surface transport interchange. Think rail access, expressway links, plus commercial and logistics zones right nearby.
That sounds like an absolutely monumental project. So connect the dots for us. How does this massive airport upgrade directly help humanitarian efforts? What's a practical difference for getting aid out quickly?
Okay, this is where it gets clever. The plan is to integrate the UN hub directly with the cargo area, right beside, or maybe even within, the cargo apron next to the new Greenfield Terminal. They're smartly leveraging the existing Swissport cargo complex that's already a decent size, about 10,400 square meters, and it already has the right kind of features. Temperature-controlled rooms vital for medicines, strong rooms for valuable or dangerous goods, think DGR items, automated pallet handling, access for the big wide-body cargo planes. It's a solid foundation to build on for aid. So if we look at typical UN hubs, we can pretty much map out what this will look like. You'll have an airside staging zone right on the tarmac, parking spots for those big freighters, a big central warehouse, probably over 10,000 square meters, bonded. Inside, the cold rooms, DGR vaults, general aid storage areas set up for those specific humanitarian pallets. They're standardized for quick loading. Then, a dedicated floor for kitting and repacking, breaking down bulk supplies, labeling, getting things ready for dispatch, both airside and for ground transport. Crucially, an on-site customs and control zone. Customs, quarantine, border control right there speeds things up enormously. Offices for the coordination teams, UN partners probably attached to the warehouse. And finally, smooth ground transport access. Good roads linking straight to the main highways like the Mombasa-Nairobi highway and towards those single-stop border posts for rapid inland movement like towards Naivasha. And this all rolls out in phases linked to the UN move. Phase 0, that's by 2026, improving the runways, the cargo apron, taxiways, getting the groundwork ready. That lines up with the UN agencies moving in. Phase 1 by 2030. That's when the Greenfield Terminal gets built. Cargo handling expands significantly. The hub probably starts operating in the completed cargo zones then. Phase 2, maybe around 2037. Second runway online, full terminal ops. The hub should be fully built out in its own dedicated area by then. I mean, think of it like building a dedicated mini-city just for aid logistics. That's the scale. And the airport design helps. That radial terminal keeps passengers and cargo flowing separately and efficiently, reduces transit times. Plus, using the existing high-spec cargo facilities means it's easier to adapt for things like WFP food shipments or WHO medical supplies.
That is an incredible vision for the future. But what's really interesting, you mentioned something earlier. While the UN plan is massive and forward-looking, someone else has kind of already tested this model, haven't they? It's not just the UN breaking new ground here.
Exactly right. You're talking about the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross. They were pioneers here, actually, with their Logistics Support Center, the LSC. It opened late 2023, and significantly, it's located in the Nairobi Gate Industrial Park. Now, that's East Africa's first special economic zone, an SEZ, and critically, it has its own integrated customs control area on site.
Okay, so customs happens inside their zone.
Precisely. That's the key advantage. It means tax exemptions, much faster clearance, dedicated bonded warehousing. The result, they've cut import and processing times by about half, 50%, compared to the usual way things work.
50%. That's huge in a crisis.
It's game-changing. It means aid can literally move from warehouse to disaster zone in hours, not days. Imagine a sudden flood, right? The ICRC hub isn't just storage, it's agile. They can pack specific kits, food parcels, whatever's needed, and get it on a plane immediately. It bypasses those usual customs bottlenecks that can tragically cost lives. It really sets a new standard for efficiency. Proves speed and compliance can go together.
So zooming out a bit, beyond the aid operations themselves, what is all this, the UN expansion, the airport hub, the ICRC model, what does it mean for Kenya itself, for the region's economy?
Oh, the impact for Kenya is potentially massive, both economically and diplomatically. Just the existing UN presence, remember, brings in around $350 million a year to Kenya's economy. That's already 4 times what they make from coffee exports, just to put it in perspective. So JKIA becoming this major humanitarian hub. It cements Nairobi as a key regional logistics anchor. That drives more infrastructure development, think increased use of the Nairobi Expressway linking the airport. And it boosts Kenya's role in African governance in multilateral discussions, plus the direct economic benefits, foreign currency, jobs, and all the spin-offs in hotels, transport services. It's significant.
But with this kind of rapid growth, this big influx of international staff and operations, there have to be some local impacts too, right? Any potential downsides or community concerns being talked about?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And community perceptions are, well, mixed. One interesting thing is the discrepancy in numbers being discussed. Online, like on Reddit, you see figures up to 20,000 people potentially relocating staff, contractors, families. But the official Kenyan government estimates from the security DG are closer to 800 additional HQ staff, not including families.
Still, even 800-plus families is a lot for specific areas.
Exactly. Even the lower number is expected to put upward pressure on rents, especially in the more upscale areas near Jigiri, like Runda, Ruaka. And that kind of pressure can, cascade outwards over time into other neighborhoods. So policymakers definitely need to be thinking ahead about managing these urban pressures, the demand on infrastructure, schools, healthcare, all of that. But stepping back, the big picture is that what's happening in Nairobi at JKIA, it's genuinely transformative. For how the UN delivers aid and runs programs, it really positions Kenya as a pivotal hub on the continent, shows their growing capacity for large-scale logistics, for diplomacy, for being part of the global response system.
So it really sounds like a deliberate, multi-pronged strategy unfolding. You've got the ICRC showing the model works, the UN making massive investments, the airport infrastructure scaling up. What's the key takeaway here about Kenya's approach for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is how proactive and integrated Kenya's approach is. They aren't just reacting, they are intentionally building the physical infrastructure, yes, but also the regulatory environment, like those SEZs. They're actively positioning themselves to be indispensable. It's really a case study in how a nation can strategically lift its global importance by focusing on this critical humanitarian and logistics architecture.
That is a really powerful thought, and maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. How might concentrating so much humanitarian and logistical power in one regional hub change the way we respond to future crises globally?
Right.
And, what lessons could other regions learn from Kenya's proactive push to become this indispensable lifeline?
Yeah, definitely something to think about. How this model might scale or be adapted elsewhere.
And we absolutely encourage you to keep exploring this. Maybe look into the specific UN agencies involved or dig into some of the wider economic impact studies that are out there.